One of the most terrifying but rewarding things you can do is do improv. If it's your first time with us, I'm Xanthi, the Feral Academic, and welcome to the Authentic Academic Movement, where we are feral, honest, and anti bullshit. Performance improv. This is extremely important for academics. We are so structured. We have a system. We follow rules. It's a very rule oriented culture. Last year, my colleagues and I set up a colloquium and unconference. One of the sessions I pitched was, let's have all of the academics do improv. And I did not grow up as a very confident person. I did not perform an acting class when I was a child. I did love SNL. It took me years and years to build confidence to speak in public, feel comfortable talking to people and strangers on the stage. I constantly recommend this to all of my friends. Try an improv class, even if it's just an intro, though I do recommend you do a course of like Improv 101, because the things that you will learn will translate into your work and anything you do and the way that you handle things that you did not expect. If you've heard of the term yes and, that is from improv. It's the idea that you're just going to roll with whatever comes. This is just an example. Someone says, "Oh, wow. That's a lovely, lovely cardigan that you're wearing." Your scene partner should say, "Oh, thank you. It was made by my grandmama." So that's an example of yes anding. A bad example of like not accepting what your partner gave you would be, "Oh, that's a lovely cardigan." And you'd be like, "I'm not wearing a cardigan. Are you?" This translates to the academic world because we tend to not see outside of this like tunnel vision. The academic system trains us that way. There's not a lot of room for improvisation because each PhD is exploring something that is rare, right? However, they still want it to fit within these confines. And actually, I'm curious about any PhD students that are pursuing like theater. The biggest reason why I recommend improv for academics is because it will get you out of your head. That is the main gift that you will receive from doing improv. You're on the spot, somebody throws an idea at you, and you just got to say it and go because you're in front of people. That's scary. Yes, I know. But that's when the best ideas come. That's when the humor comes. That's when amazing magic can happen. So I definitely recommend bringing this to your colleagues when you're hanging out or, having a party with other academics. Just be like, "Hey, let's schedule an improv session." It feels very freeing when you can just like open your mind and forget about all that. It will help your actual research prevent the limitations that come from it. I feel like that's a skill to build as well because not everyone is used to thinking outside the box. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that some people think more logically, while some people are just always thinking outside of the box to the point when they're not even in the same room anymore. But, there's a pros and cons to everything. If you're telling me, "Xanthi, I never want to put my face and perform in front of anyone. Are you seriously recommending this?" I say yes. Please push past your anxiety. Find a middle ground, even if it's a small group. Even if you tell your improv teacher, "I have extremely bad anxiety. Is there any way that we can adjust to this?" Ask for your needs. Ask for your access needs. If online feels better, there are online improv classes. I was in an improv troupe where there was people from the US, Canada, Australia, and we just had to make sure that we were fitting our time zones. I honestly wish I could have continued it because it's so relaxed. I know you're going to think relaxing, but it is in its own way where you're not like having to think. Academics, we think so much, but when you just sit in front of like your team and you're given a word and you're given a prompt and you're listening, it requires great listening because if you're not listening to your scene partner, you're going to be like lost. And then people are like, "This scene does not make sense because this person is not listening." So there's no room for you to be in your head. And that's what I find most beautiful. Please try it. If you're a person that prefers in person which can be really freeing in its own way. There are plenty of improv classes. I'm sure in your area there has to be some. If you feel intimidated, go to an improv show. Try to make sure they're good. No shade, I promise. When you watch improv that's difficult, it's really difficult to sit through it. Definitely look into it and see what recommendations out there. There's musical improv as well, storytelling. Just go check it out and see how people think on their feet. There's no pre-planning. Like they'll be like, "Okay, audience, can you give me a word?" And you'll be like, "Zucchini." And then they'll be like, "Okay." And then they'll come up with a scene about zucchini, just like someone just jumps out there. An exercise that you can try with a group of friends, build a story together. That's a very low stakes way of doing improv, is like somebody says one word, the next person dog, next person sat, and then it'll keep leading on to something. And this is you actively listening, building on something together as a team, and coming up with a story. I am a huge advocate for improv. A combination of improv and therapy and rest would greatly help the average academic. If you have any questions about how to get started, please feel free to leave a comment. If you're stressed or scared and you have specific questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, my friend. I am going to share an article called "What Improv Taught Me About Failure as a Teacher and an Academic," written by Catherine Hubbard from Sam Houston State University. The first sentence says, "There are no mistakes, only unexpected outcomes." There are so many ways that you feel like a failure in academia. With improv, it's like it really encourages your inner child. Oh, why don't we play anymore? Why don't we feel free to just like experiment and do things? That's something we lose when we're adults. And it's quite sad, actually, because I've noticed this. My research involves children who make horror movies, right? And I was looking on YouTube, seeing if I could find anything. And there was this child who started their own podcast, which I was like, oh my gosh, slay. But when I listened to it, you could tell it felt like she was reading off a script that was generated by AI. That's in the internet, written by adults, what adults think. So it was like a child regurgitating adult thoughts through an AI program. Years ago, before AI was this prevalent, I loved coming across the most random video by a child, unique mindset that I would have never thought of. I loved those. They didn't make sense, but I loved them. And I really, 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 really find children so wonderful because of that, because they are unfiltered and they're not like thinking about failure in that way. They're just so themselves. And tying back to our topic, this is why improv is wonderful, because it is tying you back to that childish mind of freedom. Who doesn't want that in their research and in their being? We all need that to like come back to who we were and feeling less restricted in ourselves. Now that I've been talking about AI, actually, I have thoughts about AI in the university system. That's another video for another time. That is all for now. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe if you found this helpful and you want to stay in touch. I am sending so much love. Have a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. Sending you love, hugs, and legal drugs.